Today I'm going to be creating a new map in Lore for the Vikings of my medieval LEGO world with the help of Sohanged, who reached out to help me make a new map for the never-before-seen northern continent. But first, let me give you a little bit of context to this video in case you haven't seen my first one. In my first lore video, I mentioned that the Vikings once lived in the north but were wiped out by the Black Falcons. The Falcons had conquered all the other Northmen and forced them into exile. Some went south to work as mercenaries. Those men and women would later form the Raven Kingdom in the deserts of the southernmost continent. But the less fortunate Vikings headed north by boat into the frigid ocean known as the Splintering Sea. The descendants of those brave explorers will be the topic of today's video. So without any more explanation, let's get right into the lore. Far in the past, the Vikings once lived and raided the fertile lands of the south. There were many clans that had petty wars with each other on occasion, but they would band together when times were tough. That was true for a time, until the Falcon clan decided they were the only true Northmen worthy of ruling a kingdom. They went to war with all neighboring clans and slaughtered everyone who stood in their way. Some would be lucky enough to escape into exile. Those men and women now find themselves scattered across the far north of ice and stone. The once strong clans are on the brink of extinction, and the Black Falcons wish to finish the job. First, let me take you into the far north, past the Splintering Sea, and into the small cradle of salvation that the Wolf clan call home. The Wolf clan are one of two remaining Viking clans in the north. They live on the outskirts of the Wolf's Wood, a gargantuan forest covering the western half of the continent. The Wolf's Wood is known for being horribly cold and dark. The little sun that the north gets is made even worse by the fact that the dense forest covers the west in shadow. Not much can grow under the canopy of the Wolf's Wood. The few creatures that do call it home are hunted down by massive wolves that will eat anything and anyone. Those bloodthirsty beasts are in the namesake of the forest. The people that settled here built a small village and named it Angros, after the man that saved them from the Black Falcon scourge so long ago. The Falcons came down upon a small farming community of simple villagers and children. Angros, a behemoth of a man, who was a woodsman by trade, grabbed his axe and stood on the bridge that connected their farm to the mainland, where the Falcons were quickly approaching from. He fought off wave after wave of Black Falcon warriors. He cut them down without grace or technique, but heaved and swung with such weight that the Black Falcon spearmen crumbled beneath him. When his axe connected with shield, wood cracked and splintered away into thousands of pieces. When the Falcons got too close for his axe, he grabbed them and threw them over into the river beneath. As the villagers left in their boats, they heard the shrieks of terror coming from the bridge. Each new wave of Falcons were more terrified than the last. Finally, the Black Falcon leader, who was furious by this point, unceremoniously ended the carnage by firing an arrow directly into Angros's heart. The men and women that escaped would never know of Angros's fate, but they would never forget his heroic final stand. Now, years later, those same people scrape by from hunting the game of the Wolf's Wood. Though they are competing with the vicious beasts that the forest is known for, they still get by decently enough. They chose to paint their shields and homes with wolf runes in reverence of their canine neighbors. It's not too common for man and beast to come in contact with each other, but when they do, it's not a pretty sight. The people of Angros fear the wolves more than any other creature, though some say that the beasts protect them from any would-be Black Falcon attacks. The truth is, the Black Falcons just haven't found them yet. The people of Angros wish to leave their past behind them and are happy in their new home, far from the Falcons' reach. The only other clan left standing is the Eagle clan. Their elders say that when they were sailing away from the Black Falcons' brutality, they spotted a beautiful monster of an eagle in the sky. They followed the massive bird across the Splintering Sea to this Misty Bay that lies beneath the Frost Mountains. This tale is unenthusiastically nodded along to by the younger generations that don't believe a word of it, but the elders tell it with such fervor that it may just be true. Those men and women that first landed on the Misty Bay took the eagle as their sigil and proudly displayed it on their ships and on their round shields. They believe that the eagle was a blessing from the gods and worship it like they would any other deity. The village that sprung up on the bay would be known as the Eye. It lies on the narrowest point of the bay and is much more prosperous than Angros. The village is bustling with fishermen, merchants, and hunters. They enjoy a slightly warmer climate than the wolves do and can do a bit of farming during the warmer months. For some mysterious reason, the bay is clouded in a thick haze at all times. It helps protect them from any Black Falcon scouting parties, but it also makes sailing in and out of the bay a challenge. The bay is also frozen for months at a time during the winter, but when the gods permit and the bay's ice clears, trading vessels will pass through from the south. With them comes the food of the south, warm and spiced. The Northmen will indulge the southern traders and purchase barrels of spice and exotic fruits. They'll use them for their extravagant summer feast, an event that no member of the Eagle clan would dare miss. But the merchants also bring word of southern politics and war, not something the Northmen have much care for because of their isolation. That is, until they hear whispers of the Black Falcon's whereabouts. While the wolves of the west are happy to hunt and frolic in the woods, the eagles seek sweet revenge against those that had sent them into the frozen wastes of the north. They lost so many on their voyage. From food shortages to ice storms, they are still bitter from the betrayal that the Falcons bestowed upon them. How could greed break the bonds of kinship? the eagles will never understand. During the voyage north, both the wolf and eagle clan lost many at sea. Their bodies were thrown overboard and fell deep into the splintering sea. The survivors would sing of their bravery and heroics and give small ceremonies to honor those lost. Children would make small sacrifices to their ancestors that they didn't know. They yearned for a land that they never stepped foot in. Being born in the far north, they grew up in a land unfamiliar to their parents, told stories of the past without having any tangible connection to it. Still, they honored those lost out of respect. These small gestures and prayers have seemingly brought those spirits and dead back from their frozen graves. The fallen came back not with joy or gratitude, but are furious and vengeful, sentient but unable to speak. They let out haunting grumbles and moans that echo across the splintering sea. Black Falcon watchmen and fishermen from Falcon Cove Port speak of the wailing and cries that can be heard from the north. They foolishly assume this to be the sounds of seals and other underwater beasts, but occasionally a Falcon ship will find itself a little too far north. Before they realize what's happening, they'll feel a sharp breath creep down their spine, and a depressing fog will set in across their ship. Those men will never return to port. Finally, just north of the Falcon Kingdom sits the Falcon's Nest, a staging ground on top of an island just across from the Falcon Cove Bay. A young band of ambitious Black Falcon knights have set up a fort and a shipyard. They are building a fleet of ships with the lumber from the islands, hoping to head north in search of new land and the remnants of the Northmen that their fathers and grandfathers had wiped out. Their first voyages north were fruitless, with some getting lost never to be seen again, and others finding land that was frozen and lifeless. They are eager to prove themselves to the king and queen of the Falcons. They've been offered land and titles if they can finish off the Vikings left in the north, wherever they might find them. With the Black Falcons and the Eagle clan soon to be at each other's throats, and the wolves to the west docile and content, will the last of the Northmen live on, or will the sheer might of the Black Falcons army snuff out their weakened flame? So that's about it. I really hope you enjoyed this kind of wintry Viking lore video, and I hope it lives up to this guy's expectations, who has been commenting, asking for me to make a Viking lore video for a few months now. Making these lore videos is always a blast, and writing out the story and doing a little bit of world building is so much fun to me. I'd recommend anyone building a Lego castle mock or world give it a try. It's a really good time. I've got a lot more ideas for future lore videos, so stay tuned for that. I also want to thank Sohanged for making the map for this video. If you like his work, you can check him out on Fiverr, linked below. And if you enjoyed this video, why not check out my previous lore videos on screen now, and subscribe for more lore videos coming in the future. Thank you for watching.